Amazing. Awesome. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 2 of Beyond the Org. Thank you for those that tuned in into the first episode. We appreciate you all and looking forward to continuing to showcase all the things that are relevant in our ecosystem. This show is all about elevating the voices behind the real projects, the real teams, the experiences that are driving all the best practices, all the pain points, all the experiences that we're all collectively facing, and just sharing some of that with our broader audience. So if you're a developer, admin, architect, project manager, and you're experiencing things on your projects, tune in and learn a bit more. Today we'll be digging deeper with a guest who has been on the front lines of a lot of these projects on the delivery side, and his perspective is definitely one you do not want to miss. Before we dive in, though, a quick shout out to our sponsor, Cluebot. The Cluebot team is rethinking how consulting work is getting done with AI-driven discovery, documentation, and delivery management, enabling humans and AI to collaborate in a way that we haven't done before. But enough from me for now. Let's bring our guest in for today's episode. I'll hand it over to my co-host, Eric, to give a proper introduction. Eric, I'll hand it over to you.
That's great, Omar. Thanks very much. And I appreciate the opportunity to join you once again as a co-host. And for those of you who don't remember who I am, I have been in the Salesforce ecosystem since 2009, working across a whole bunch of different industries, doing lots of different things. But probably most notably, people know who I am because I'm the founder of Midwest Dreamin' and Dreamin' and Data, two of the Salesforce community conferences out there. And similarly, today's guest, Martin Humpolec, is a co-founder of Check Dreamin'. He's also a Salesforce CTA and a member of the Salesforce MVP Hall of Fame. And Martin has been in the ecosystem for quite a while as well. And as Omar indicated, his journey spans all sorts of different roles in the ecosystem, from developer to consultant to project manager, architect and advisor to some teams across Europe. He knows his stuff. It's going to be an interesting conversation, that's for sure. So we're really excited to dive in and learn some more from Martin. So Martin, welcome to Beyond the Org.
Great to be here. Thank you for the invite. I took inspiration from you with the Czech Dreamin'.
The backgrounds, yes. I thought that looked like Czechoslovakia to me. So yes, very cool. So let's dive in a little bit. And start, maybe you can kind of describe your journey, your Salesforce journey, where you started, kind of how you got to where you are today. Talk about your path, if you will, in your career.
It's some time back, so good to reflect. But I basically started with Salesforce when I've been on the parental leave, and I had nothing to do besides the baby, which is job on its own. And I somehow heard Salesforce for the third time, and I said, okay, let's dive in. And I did have experience from the CRM sphere. I've been doing Lotusnos before, and when I saw Salesforce, I was like, hey, it's about the same. Let's do it. So the first task I've got was some kind of development task. It was before the Trailhead, so I tried to look the documentation and everything and put something together. I didn't really succeed, but it was close. So I then rather moved to the consultancy space because it was kind of easy. The click not code approach was better for me. And then with the Trailhead and with the experience, I get back to the developer. And obviously as a consultant, you are managing the clients as well. And then somehow it happened that I got my job after the parental leave and been consulting more and more. And I've moved into the architecture role. And at the end, the company asked me whether I want to do the CTA. And I said, well, yeah, it's tempting. So I passed the CTA after some time. And now I'm the architect mainly. And I'm trying to utilize all the experience I've got over the years on the project to help the customers and really move their, not just the implementation and not just the instance, but maybe their business as well.
Nice. I wonder how many members of our audience here remember Salesforce before Trailhead. That's been probably 10 years now, hasn't it?
I think it's 2014 was Trailhead. established.
That's what I was thinking. It was announced at Dreamforce 2014, I believe. Yeah.
Something
Yeah,
like
I personally have not experienced Salesforce pre-Trailhead. I got my first introduction to Salesforce back in 2017. So when all that hard work was put in. So definitely good to hear the perspective from others that have. So Martin, I mean, as I kind of think about what you just described, I'm sure a lot of our audience members are in variety of stages in their career, whether they're an admin, developer, trying to get into the Salesforce ecosystem. I mean, outside of luck, I mean, like what went into the transitions between different roles? Obviously, maybe you have different interests and passions, but what is some practical advice you can give to somebody that's maybe stuck in a position, they're trying to navigate into something else? Is it the self-starter mindset? Is it the go figure it out and learn how to do it and then, create the job for yourself? Would love to get a little bit more from you on that.
I would say it's about the curiosity and about the willingness to invest into yourself, because I've met so many people who just don't have time because they are fully booked and they don't really invest into themselves, and then they found out they are not needed. But it's about the right company as well, I would say, because there are, and I saw a few of them, so many companies that just will use you in the way they are used to, and they will not let you grow. So you are a business analyst, and we used you for last 2 years as a business analyst. So we understand you want to move into the consultancy role, but that's not your experience. That's not where we can sell you. So you will stay business analyst. And that's obviously the wrong fit. And you sadly need to find a different company which will take you as you are. And
So it's a combination of finding an organization that wants to support your own goals, but at the same time being that self-starter, willing to go learn and experiment and not be too scared to fail, at least in a controlled environment, to maybe add a few more skills to your toolbox, and eventually you can be that consultant that you want to be, or be that developer that you want to be as well. No, that's very cool.
Yeah, I would probably add one comment to that, where when you're searching for your next role, sometimes, as Martin indicated, it's better to search by company. Find a company that you align with their values, and then try to see if there's a role open there for you, or just continue a conversation with that organization for as long as it takes, until they see the value in what you can bring to them, and maybe they'll create a role.
Absolutely. So the primary topic of today's conversation, Martin, when we connected, I think, was really the focus around automation and how automation drives a lot of the pieces of the equation in any technology, including a CRM like Salesforce. And with the onset of AI and other low code, no code capabilities in Salesforce, we're starting to see anomalies with how people are creating automation, and the journey of creating an automation from a business requirement. Maybe give us a quick overview on what automation means to you, and kind of what you've done in the past and what you've seen in terms of governance, and we can pare back that one a bit as we go.
That's a nice intro. I'm thinking how to carry on from that. But yeah, automation is one of the things I really love in Salesforce, and I loved it even before they simplified the flow building. I feel it was more complex before, but it's still kind of a step or area which a lot of people are afraid of for some reason. And the reason is probably because it looks kind of, you need to be a developer to understand and properly structure the flow. But to me, the automation is more about, it starts with the business needs. And you really need to understand whether it makes sense and why, because a lot of those automations doesn't really make much sense at the beginning, or maybe at the end, which is even worse. So all the things like, we want to get an email if something happens is cool, but then you are flooded with emails. It was so easy to set up, but then you have your inbox flooded, and you don't want to have that. So I would say the governance really should start at the beginning, like properly estimate, properly understand, properly describe the needs, and find out whether there is no better solution on the platform, which might skip the requirement. And then there is the building of the flow, where the Einstein for flows, or whatever is the latest name, promised to simplify it. And it probably will one day, and if you have the right license. So I would not venture that far. And I would stay with the fact that the simple use cases are simple to build. So it's just about investing some time into learning that. And then you have the structure and the governance which you should follow for the flow to be performant enough and to be able to be monitored and these kind of things. And if you are part of bigger team, most likely you have these rules in place, and including the how to do that. If you are on small team, or if you are team of one, you maybe don't need it since the beginning, which kind of goes opposite. But at the same time, like, don't be scared too much by some governance, and rather solve the problems you need to solve.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm thinking. In my mind, sorry, Martin, I was thinking governance is a big deal here, because I can imagine some teams not concentrating enough on governance and allowing anyone to create some sort of automation. And that's probably creating more chaos and potentially more technical debt that someone else is going to have to address in the future if people leave the team, or if things shift. And it may be almost too dangerous that it's so easy to create some automations these days. I don't know. Just an interesting thought had popped into my mind, so I figured I'd share.
I do have an experience from yesterday, because for one client, we've been updating 60,000 opportunities because they decided to change the record types and everything. And I was like, yeah, 60,000, not a big deal. I start updating the opportunities via the data loader. And I've been checking the API usage at the same time, and it was way too high for what I expected. So then we analyzed what's going on. And we found out that there is a user who has the admin rights and API access and everything. And they connected Zapier to Salesforce, which is doing something no one has idea about. And it's using 3 times more calls than we have the opportunities. And that's automation as well. It's super easy to use. It's outside of Salesforce, so no one has a clue. And it completely changes the whole idea what you had about the automation, because the user was not able to use Flow for that because they were not skilled enough, but they've been skilled enough to use Zapier. And now we expect the bill.
Right. Interesting conundrum, yes.
So actually, Eric, feel free to go. I had a follow-up question, but feel free to go.
I was just gonna follow up a little bit with the what do you feel like is the best process perhaps to follow to make sure that you understand where your automation is, what it does, who's responsible for it, and how it's tied to specific users, perhaps, so that if someone leaves the company, you don't lose control of anything. You still understand what's going on and where it is, and all of that. How do you avoid the technical debt? Maybe that's the simple way to ask that question.
I would say the answer is you don't. Like, it's all about the people and about the governance you have or you don't have in place. So yeah, the bigger, more formal implementations I see, they use Jira or anything similar to track the user stories, see what has been delivered, who requested, how it has been delivered, and all these kind of things. So they do have some kind of description or information or knowledge in the Jira. It's still hard to find it potentially because it's all changes and it's too old. But I saw plenty of organizations which doesn't have anything. They just create a request somewhere over the coffee, and they just prepare or create a flow. And then obviously you have all the description elements in the flow and everywhere. So you should, or you are able to put some information in there. But from my experience, people don't use it. And if they use it, they won't put the information you need at the time you are fixing the problem. They put a lot of information there, but not the one you will be looking for. So to me, there is no solution. I'm still hoping that the AI will somehow solve it, especially with the cascading effects of the automations, where even in Salesforce, you can't really visualize it somehow. The flow orchestrator is great to see what's happening on one object, but you don't see the cascading effects on the other objects. So I'm looking for AI to solve this kind of problem to me.
So to piggyback off of that question from Eric, I know a lot of times flows take different shapes and sizes and appearances, and I've seen flows with 100+ steps that do so many different things. In parallel, it's a monster flow in a way. But I've also seen organizations that have dozens and dozens of flows, doing very small things that maybe could be consolidated. What is, I feel like there's something to be said here around, if you start with the right best practices, some of this technical debt is avoidable. So to the audience members that maybe are dabbling in flow or maybe are novices in that area, what is like a couple things that you might propose to, yeah, you can do this cool screen flow to do this one thing, but like, how does that impact everything else that you have in the framework from an automation perspective?
And I would say it's something which will be changing or is changing with the Agentforce, which uses flow behind the surface as well. And it uses tons of flows. And to me, there is no one general answer or one good golden rule. Because I saw people who are making these huge flows you mentioned, and they are super proud about it because it's kind of achievement. But at the same time, it's probably not the right achievement. I saw, and I maybe prefer the small, simple flows because it's also good from the DevOps perspective that you're really changing the small thing, and it's easier for all those commits and pull requests and everything. So you should stay somewhere in between. And the recommendation obviously is to use the subflows a lot, but at the same time, they are not supported in the before save flows. So you need to draw the line somewhere. So to me, the two main things are some naming convention. I don't say any preferred one, but it should be clear what the flow is doing when it triggers and on which object it runs ideally. And the second important thing to me is to use the before save flow and after save flow accordingly, because I saw so many flows which can be before save, but they are after save because the person didn't know. And that's obviously has an impact on everything. And that's to me is one of the real technical debt you will not notice until it's too late.
So before and after save flow, can you tell us a little bit more about that? I don't come from a developer background. I'm familiar with the concept. So what are those telltales that somebody should be using a before save? Because I believe the after save is what a lot of people default to using, and when there's a lot of things happening, reconciliation becomes a challenge. Any thoughts there?
Well, basically, the recommendation is that the before save flows should be used and can only be used if you are updating the record which triggered the action. And because it's before save, technically before it has been saved into database, it's way quicker and it doesn't create an extra call into the database. If you are using the after save flow, it's kind of slower because it already has been committed into the database and now you are committing it again. But at the same time, it can create additional records besides the triggering one and all the other things. And the tricky part is that you won't really notice the difference at the beginning and when you are testing it on one record. But over time, when you have many flows, like if you have 10 after save flows potentially on an object, it might be 10 calls into the database. And if you are updating multiple records, it might be even multiplied. and suddenly you are over the DML limits which Salesforce enforces, and it starts failing. And obviously it will start failing when something big is happening. And that's probably the moment when you want to be prepared and you don't really want to face any challenges. And again, maybe experience from real life. I saw a client who had a lot of flows, which updated everything across the system. The admin left. Well, even the admin wasn't sure at the end how they are interacting with each other. But the admin left and the new admin has no clue why some values are being updated and when, which was one of the problems. And the other one was that he really heavily utilized the after-save flows. But it still has been working kind of. And then came the war at Ukraine, and this was a non-profit. So they started to get a lot of donations, which has been triggering all these flows. And suddenly the import of the donations has started to fail, which was the worst part because they wanted to know about all the donations. They wanted to thank the donors and everything, and they had nothing for a few days before we've been able to clear out the automations. But till then, everything has been working.
Yeah, it sounds like Martin, you kind of stepped in and helped save the day there. You know, I know the nonprofit space is one that's near and dear to you, and the work you're able to support because they have limited resources. You know, what I guess maybe give us a little bit more about that, and just working with maybe smaller organizations that are a little bit more scrappy, limited resources. How can they survive in this world where there's probably limited governance and limited resources to document everything and hopefully get things done right the first time and not have to remediate it later?
Well, first of all they need to trust the people, and they need to trust the right people. But at the end, it might be really the simplifications. If you want too much, it will be probably complex, and it's harder to, or it's easier to fail. So if you will get anything which is complex, you might want to ask for second opinion. Like we do it with doctors, so maybe we should be doing it with our Salesforce works as well.
So for those smaller organizations that may not have the budget to handle all that kind of stuff, to bring in consultants, is there a suggested option for them? I mean, I'm not that familiar with it, to be honest. Is there something on Trailhead, for example, they could go review that might give them some more guidance, or are there blogs out there within the ecosystem that tend to focus on this issue, where they could use as a resource, perhaps?
Well, I would say on Trailhead there are plenty of modules, but they won't have time to study. So that's really not the option.
Right.
Speaking about AI, I feel there might be tools which will give provide the analysis and some feedback. And from what I saw, some of that might be helpful and really good. But at the same time, you mentioned the Midwest domain and all the community groups around the globe. And I would say that to me, and what I see here at Prague, it might be one of the best things, because there are people coming who are willing to share the knowledge. And there are also the people we spoke about at the beginning who are looking to gain some experience. So if you combine those two things, I would say they are able to find someone who might not have the expertise, but might be able to provide some feedback. And then you still need to play around and see and try to compare the feedbacks. And if you get two same-ish feedbacks, it's probably right. If you get two opposite feedbacks, it's probably something where you need to dig deeper and understand it more. But from my experience, even the experienced people are coming to those user groups or community groups, and they are willing to help. The whole 1% pledge led by Salesforce, where people are willing to donate their time, I would say it really works in the community.
That's a good call out. I agree with you there. The community has definitely provided me with some great responses to questions and helped me solve some issues that I've faced along the way.
Just don't be afraid to use it.
All right.
So, Martin, I know we spent a lot of time talking about Flow, but Flow is not the only form of automation people use. I think Apex is still pretty widely prevalent. There's platform events. There's probably still some process builders floating around still. For somebody that's inheriting a org, maybe they're newer to the organization, and they're trying to, figure out where the head is, where the feet are, and where's everything else in between. Any practical advice to, go through this? And there's gonna be pains, obviously, right? You're trying to figure out what's going on, and if it's not well documented, you're inheriting something that's maybe less than optimal. But any light at the end of the tunnel moments that you can share with our audience about this?
I'm thinking because when we are doing the analysis, we go deep, but we do have the technical knowledge, so it's easier. I would say if you are inheriting an org and you don't have the expertise, just close your eyes and wish for the best, and over the time try to document something. Definitely makes sense to go through the trail that we already spoke about to get some feeling about the Apex and just be able to read it. I would say at the end it's not complex. You need to read, you need to understand a few words, but at the end you might be able to figure out what it's doing. To me, really the hardest part, which is also hard to document or hard to find out, it's all those loosely coupled things. So if you have a flow, you can see there is a flow, you can document it. If you have Apex trigger or scheduled batch, you can see it, you can document it. If you have the platform events which just fire and you have no clue what's consuming them, it's pretty hard. If you have the Zapier I spoke about at the beginning, which is connecting from outside and you have no clue about it, you have no chance to use it, to find it. The same thing is with the ESB integration platform, which is outside of Salesforce, and you have no clue about it. And all the other systems which are floating around Salesforce is something which you have no clue. So you can try to monitor the API calls and what consumes them and go from there. But this is something I would say which is deep technical, and even for the technical people, it's they might not be able to find everything. So no best recommendation.
It's understandable. I was recently talking with an admin who is not a developer, and she, obviously with her organization's permission, she has a ChatGPT license that's managed by the company, and she was starting to see luck with copying and pasting Apex code and asking ChatGPT, tell me more. What does this Apex code do for me? And what are all the different things? But you still need to know how to ask the right questions. I think is kind of what we're getting at here. If you know how to ask the right questions, maybe AI can help a little bit to shed a little bit of light into what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I would say it's a great teacher if you can paste the code and ask questions. It really helps you to learn the language. It's just another language you need to learn, which is something not common for Americans maybe, but it's pretty common in Europe.
That is probably true, yes. So thinking about the entire conversation we've had up to this point, if you had to kind of summarize maybe the top, let's call them risk points perhaps, or things that admins or people trying to build flows and automations need to consider, how would you respond to that? What do you think are the most important features or things they need to think about while they're thinking about trying to start some sort of automation?
I would say one of them, maybe the first one, is how to document. So who requested, why requested, and how we solve it. Because as an admin, you are most likely the only source of knowledge about the Salesforce in the org, because all the salespeople and all the service people already has been fired or left, and you are probably the last one surviving. The documentation goes from the Word document or Google document to the description fields in all fields and elements. It definitely will help you to some degree in the future. It would be nice to have some kind of logger of what's going on in the automations. So here I typically recommending the Nebula logger, which can log all the actions, all the errors and everything. So you can see what's going on in the org and you can fix it. Without that, you are flying blind a bit. Learn when to use the before safe, after safe, and use it accordingly. Think about the async pass as well, which might help at some points, and it might complicate situation at the same time because it behaves differently. It will not let the user know if there is any error and anything. So you need to find out how to communicate with the users if something goes wrong. And yeah, always learn more.
Yeah, so especially with Agentforce now. I mean, Agentforce, a big part of Agentforce is flow, right? And I think it's important to get the foundations right, because that using Agentforce isn't going to just magically work for folks' organizations. I wish that's how it worked, but
but it's the same as the ChatGPT, as you said. You need to know how to ask the right question, and because ChatGPT is so polite, it will basically answer the way you will ask. So if you ask the wrong question, it will still give you the right answer, or the answer which fits the question which was wrong at the first time. So
interesting. Yeah, that's true. It's the way technology has been evolving over the years, and the way it will continue to evolve is certainly going to change the way we do business and the way we build things and how we interact with people. This whole conversation kind of reminds me of something that I heard many years ago as an approach to utilizing technology, and it's just an acronym. It's PPT, and people, process, technology, and you need to understand all three of those, but in that order. Start with the people, then move to the processes, and then finally bring in a technology after all of that fits everything properly, rather than what some people probably do mistakenly, which is just start with the technology and say, I'm going to make this fit, and that doesn't always work. So
yeah,
it's interesting.
and it goes to what I said at the beginning, that you really need to understand the process and why they want it. Because with all those AI which will be able to generate it, I would say that the biggest fear of all those consultants and developers is not that it will take away the job, but that they will need to clear out all the mess it will create, or the users will create, because it will be so easy to generate the flow because the AI will generate it, but it will not make sense at the first place. So then you need to clean it out, and it's way harder.
Okay.
Yeah, so that gets me to my next question, and that is, AI is obviously, people are using it in their personal life, their professional life, and I think you just alluded to it right now, Martin, around, if I use AI to create a flow, it may be incorrect. I'm curious, are you using AI today for work? I mean, how are you seeing successes? Where are you seeing failures? Where's the juice worth the squeeze in this regard currently?
I would say I don't use it for the technical delivery, like create me a flow or create me a field or whatever, but I definitely use it for the preparation. So if I need to know about some area I never worked with, I will ask about it and it will give me some summary. It's really great if I need to prepare some questions for the customers. Again, I can describe what I'm after and it will prepare some questions, and the questions are surprisingly good. It can also prepare the user story if you provide, I would say, quite a limited level of detail. It can still prepare really good user stories with all the diagrams and all these kind of things. So that can simplify a lot of things. And then, as you said before, it can really be a great teacher. So you just give it a code and it will tell you what's wrong and how to fix it. And I would say that I've developed or co-developed a few things with this Agentforce, Vibes, Copilot, whatever I used, that it proposed surprisingly good code, and it really, I would say it even followed what I wanted to write, and it prepared me snippets of the code, which I just accepted. And what really surprised me a lot was that I wrote some kind of complex code, I would say, and then I wanted to provide the sentence with the explanation to the user, what's happening and why it's happening. So I said, okay, the explanation equals, and it generated the sentence, which was spot on. I would write it the same way. And I was like, how do you know?
I mean, there's a reason why this podcast is called Beyond the Org. And I think majority, if not all of the things that you just described right now are not the actual physical configuration in the environment. It's all the things that happen around it that makes the successful deployment successful or not successful. So it's a great validation that we picked the right podcast series name based off of your feedback right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that brings up one more question from my perspective here. We've kind of talked about this from the technical side and from the architecture side already. And with the shift here that we just saw into the name of the podcast and why we chose it and how you validated everything in that regard, think about this conversation from the perspective of a company leader, an executive perhaps. What do they need to do differently as the leader of an organization or an executive at a company to make sure that the proper emphasis is being placed in the right places?
I would say you need to enable and push people to use it to some degree and not trust it to a big degree. I still remember talk with my friend and client at the same time, and she came after their CEO had a training about AI, and the statement from their CEO was, AI can make you 100 times more productive. I don't want that. I'm happy with 40 times. And I started to laugh because I was like, okay, so now you will be 40 times more productive. But we have 1 hour long sync every week. So that's already your full working time, which you should be using. So like, how will you deliver your job? Or should I send some AI to the meeting and you will send your AI and they will talk and we will do something else? So that probably won't work. But yeah, at the same time, there are tons of use cases where I still feel on the verge of cheating. There are use cases where I'm completely fine with the results. I still double check the results. It might open good questions because sometimes I don't know why it generated something. So I'm asking more and I want to get the proof and the links and I still study on my own. But it can simplify the things or speed up the things a lot, and we should not be afraid to use it.
Awesome.
Also, from the if you're speaking from the leader perspective, it's also about like, yeah, I got this document which something like what are the weak spots and where it's wrong and where it doesn't fit our processes and our legal requirements, whatever, and it can give you the summary of that. So it can be used as a double checker of everything you are getting.
Awesome. That's great.
I guess that's what Salesforce, when they talk about agentic enterprise, there's a flavor of that in that answer. Because if you can't figure out how to use AI at an enterprise-wide level, it introduces more risks and more problems than it's probably worth.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
so again, about understanding why you want it and what you want, because a lot of those use cases I saw on Trailhead just doesn't make much sense to me. I understand that they are looking for some simple use cases, but at the same time, it doesn't really play together.
Yeah, and especially when we talk about productivity tools for teams like developers, IT organizations, those tend to be lower on the totem pole of priority versus like you're the sales teams, the customer support and success teams that are actually supporting the broader organization. IT obviously is very important, but in terms of IT, it tends to get the back burner. So, finding ways to automate or increase more efficiency or drive more value or reduce risk, unfortunately, does take a bit of a backseat. So hopefully that will shift. Hopefully organizations will see the importance of meeting AI and humans together, and that collaborative space becomes much more prevalent in the future. Hopefully not to the point where our AI agents talk to each other. I think that's a very interesting dynamic. But hey, never say never.
Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I'd like to give you an opportunity to just give us a little bit about Czech Dreaming. I know it's coming up sometime in the near future. Tell our audience a little bit more about that, and we'll wrap things up. But yeah, go for it.
Yes, as I said at the beginning, I took inspiration from Eric and at Midwest Dreaming, and we established something similar in the Czech Republic. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to found the conference was that I've been traveling around the conferences across Europe, and I never saw someone from the Czech Republic there. And I realized how much I feel the people are missing on the knowledge, on the connections and everything. So I decided to bring the people to the Prague. So we established Czech Dreaming 6-7 years ago. It's happening end of May at Prague. So if you want to see this nice Charles Bridge, you have perfect opportunity. The call for speakers will open in January, and we expect some great speakers again, because we are really having speakers from all over the world. And the feedback from the attendees is awesome as well, because it costs like 1 hour of consultant, and you make all the connections, you get all the knowledge, and you get the best speakers from the world.
Amazing. So for those that are listening that maybe are in the US or in other parts of the world, Prague is a great city to visit. So you might be able to make a vacation out of this one too. May in Prague, it should be a good time. So
it's a great excuse to visit Europe. And if you stay a bit longer, you can combine it with London as well. So.
Absolutely. Well, Martin, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. And sadly, it brings us to the end of the episode. A huge thank you again for your time and your insights and your candor. I mean, the transparency is important, because I think at the end of the day, people want to hear what's happening, boots on the ground, and they're probably not facing the issues in an isolation. Right? There's probably a lot of themes that folks face similarly, and it's important to bring awareness to some of that, especially in a world where AI and automation and everything's shifting so quickly. So again, thank you for joining us here on Beyond the Org, where we try to foster these kinds of conversations. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed this episode, and looking forward to having you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Take care, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you. Awesome. Stop recording.